Most people think retiring early is impossible unless you have a fortune saved up. But what if that's not true? What if you didn't need millions in the bank? What if you didn't need decades of perfect investing? What if there were multiple paths and one of them could potentially get you there much faster than most people realize? In this video, I'm going to show you 3 different paths to early retirement. The first is the traditional investment route, steady and predictable, but capital intensive. The second is a lifestyle strategy that lowers your expenses so you don't need as much income in the first place. And the third? The third is the one most people overlook. And for many, it could be the best path. It uses leverage. It can require far less upfront capital. And while it does call for business, leadership, or management skills, which you can absolutely learn, some businesses already have managers and systems in place. That means from day one, you might not have to do anything operational. You simply own the business and collect the income. By the end of this video, you'll understand how each path works, what it realistically takes, and which one might fit your personality, your risk tolerance, and your timeline. And if you want practical strategies for building financial freedom and designing your own path to early retirement, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. I share actionable advice like this every week because early retirement isn't about luck. It's about understanding your options and choosing strategically. The first path is the classic one everyone talks about, living off dividend income. The idea is simple. Invest enough money so the dividends cover your monthly expenses. Passive, no boss. Money shows up even if you don't work. Sounds perfect, right? Here's the reality check. Most people need somewhere around $5,000 to $6,000 per month to live comfortably in America. And that number isn't fixed. It has to grow over time because inflation keeps pushing expenses higher every single year. So how much money does it actually take to generate that kind of income? Roughly $1 million to $1.5 million invested, depending on your average dividend yield. At a 3 to 4% yield, that's the math. And when you say that number out loud, you start to understand why this path feels so intimidating. But the challenge isn't just reaching the number. Markets fluctuate. Companies cut dividends during downturns. Dividend income is taxable, which means your take-home pay is lower than the headline yield suggests. And inflation quietly increases the amount you need over time, so your portfolio has to keep growing even after you've stepped away from work. Because of all that, this path works best for someone who starts early, invests consistently, and stays disciplined for decades. It rewards patience more than speed. Still, the benefit is very real. Once the portfolio is large enough, the income becomes largely hands-off. Your investments generate the cash flow, and your lifestyle is funded without relying on a traditional paycheck. In short, this is the classic path. It's structured, it's predictable, and it works, but it requires serious capital, long-term consistency, and time. The second path isn't about fully replacing your income overnight. It's about lowering your expenses enough that you don't need as much income to begin with. Instead of trying to generate $5,000 to $6,000 per month immediately, this approach focuses on building a smaller stream of passive income and then intentionally designing a lower-cost lifestyle around it. For example, someone might build up dividend investments that generate $1,000 to $3,000 per month. That still requires significant savings, but it's far more achievable than trying to produce a full living wage strictly from investments. From there, the strategy shifts. Rather than maintaining a traditional housing setup with high rent or a mortgage, you intentionally reduce your fixed costs. One example is purchasing an RV and working part-time at campgrounds. Many campgrounds offer free lot space in exchange for around 15 to 20 hours of weekly work. In some cases, they also provide hourly pay on top of that. That dramatically lowers housing expenses, which are usually the biggest monthly cost. So now, instead of needing $6,000 per month to live, maybe you only need $2,500 to $3,000. The dividend income covers a significant portion of that, and the part-time campground work fills the gap. At that point, you're not traditionally retired, but you're no longer dependent on a full-time career either. You're working limited hours, your living costs are reduced, and you have flexibility in where you live and travel. The key to this model is expense control. By lowering fixed costs first, you reduce the amount of passive income required. That shortens the timeline. Instead of waiting decades to build a massive portfolio, you build a smaller one and adjust your lifestyle accordingly. There are trade-offs. Living in an RV isn't for everyone. It requires mobility, flexibility, and comfort with a smaller living space. Income from part-time work can vary, and dividend income still requires disciplined investing to build. But structurally, this path is practical. It doesn't rely on extreme numbers. It doesn't require a $1 million portfolio, and it doesn't assume you completely stop working. It redefines retirement as reduced obligation rather than zero effort. For someone open to lifestyle flexibility, this approach can create freedom much sooner than traditional retirement models, not by maximizing income, but by minimizing required expenses. The third path is very different from the first two. Instead of slowly building income over decades, you can acquire a business that already produces money, and you don't have to run it. You buy a business that already has managers, staff, and systems in place. Your role? Simply collect the income. Let's make it concrete. Meet Mark. He saved $100,000 over a few years and wanted a faster path to financial freedom. He didn't want to wait decades for dividends or cut his lifestyle down to near nothing. Instead, he looked for a business he could own passively. Using an SBA-backed loan, Mark was able to buy a business valued at $1 million with his $100,000 down. The business already had a manager, a full staff, and established systems. The previous owner had done all the setup work. Mark just had to step in as the owner. Here's the exciting part. The business was generating $400,000 a year in profit before loan payments. After paying the SBA loan and keeping a small reserve in the business, Mark ended up clearing over $12,000 a month, all while never touching day-to-day operations. He could travel, work on side projects, or just enjoy his time, knowing the income was coming in reliably. That's what makes this path so powerful. You're leveraging other people's work, established systems, and a loan, turning $100,000 into a business that produces significant monthly cash flow immediately. Compare that to the dividend path. To generate $12,000 per month, you'd likely need $3 to $4 million invested. Mark did it with far less capital and without having to manage a team. Of course, this isn't completely without risk. Mark still had to review financial statements, verify the business's past performance, and make sure it was stable before buying. Loans have to be repaid, markets can change, and staff turnover can happen, but by doing proper due diligence and owning responsibly, he minimized those risks and set himself up for long-term success. The beauty is that you don't need to be a business expert. The managers and staff handle operations. You might check in occasionally, review reports, and make strategic decisions, but day-to-day work isn't your responsibility. Over time, you could become more involved if you want, but you don't have to. You simply own the asset and collect the income. This path also has growth potential. If the business expands, revenue increases, or operations are optimized, Mark's monthly income grows too, all without adding more hours of work. That's leverage in action. The business is working for him, not the other way around. For someone willing to learn a bit about financial statements and how to evaluate a business, this is by far the fastest and most scalable path to early retirement. You save less upfront than other methods, potentially earn more income, and achieve true financial freedom without giving up your time or lifestyle. Retirement isn't one size fits all. Most advice assumes you need huge numbers, decades of saving, or a perfect life, but that's not reality for most people. The truth is, there are multiple ways to create financial freedom. You can build a large investment portfolio and live off dividends. You can adjust your lifestyle and income streams to give yourself flexibility. Or you can acquire income-producing assets that already exist and use them to accelerate your timeline. Each path comes with its own challenges and trade-offs. Some take time, some take planning, some require learning new skills. None of them are easy, but all of them are achievable with the right strategy and consistency. The goal is to see what's actually possible for you and start thinking strategically about how to get there. So take a step back, look at your own situation, and ask yourself, which path could you realistically start today? Which one aligns with how you want to live? Even small steps can make a huge difference over time. Because early retirement isn't about copying someone else's formula, it's about designing your own.